Right, let's just clear the air straight away. I love Avatar. I do, honestly. I love Avatar. And I'm going to tell you why shortly. But if you've come here to witness a bitching session about this film, if you've come here to hear me lay into the story, lay into the characters, lay into, the unobtainium, prepare to be severely disappointed. In the words of Jake Sully, I see you. Hello, my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest movie review, where today I review, a re-release. Yeah, it's a very important film because it's the highest grossing movie of all time, and it's Avatar. Yes, if I didn't already allude to, this is my review of Avatar. I did technically review this movie like 7 years ago when I started out my channel, but wasn't as good a review because I didn't have the editing software in order to sort of make it a better review and more constructive. And the fact is, this movie has been re-released in the cinemas in anticipation for the sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water, which comes out in December. But this movie has now got a 4K remaster, so I went to the IMAX 3D screening to watch this film. So yeah, Avatar. This is a big movie. It was quite it's a very talked about film, certainly in the process of when it was made and also when it was released. It had a massive opening, and clearly it's made the most money out of any film that you could think of. And I know that people have their opinions on the film as such, but I will go into why I'm going to defend this movie very, very soon. A paraplegic Marine dispatched to the moon on Pandora on a unique mission becomes torn between following his orders and protecting the world he feels is his home. The reason for that is that Jake Sully is this Marine. His brother was supposed to go on a science mission, but his brother was killed, so then because he's a twin, he is thrust into the program himself and takes his brother's place. And he falls in love with the culture of the Na'vi and Neytiri, who's the main, I guess, princess, you could say. And he begins to feel conflicted about the humans and the fact that they want to basically destroy the Na'vi's home because they want to find this little rock called unobtainium. Yeah, the name is kind of dumb, I know. And then it becomes an emotional roller coaster where Jake has to find out where he belongs, and he has to show where his loyalties lie and stand up to the humans who want to tear everything down. So the film really is a commentary on, colonization, deforestation, all of those things that you would expect. So, Avatar, as I've alluded to, I love this film. I think it's a fantastic film. Now, I know some people complain and bitch about the story, and it's always been said in the past how people think the story is shit and dumb, but basic. But honestly, I don't see the hate for this story. Yeah, the story is not the most complicated story in the world, but who gives a shit? Because what makes Avatar a success for me is the message behind the story. You can tell, the most complicated narrative in the world, and you wouldn't have a good message behind it. I defend Avatar on the basis that it tells a simple-ish story in a powerful way. I feel that it executes its message incredibly well, and because the movie is so beautifully designed, it's very easy for you to immerse into this world, and it's very easy for you to fall in love with the world. Much like Jake Sully, you are able to resonate with the Na'vi because why would anyone want to destroy this world? It's beautiful. So I think the fact that people make all these comparisons about Fern Gully and Pocahontas and Dances with Wolves, whatever, I don't care, because it doesn't. I wouldn't say it rips them off. It kind of pays homage to them in a nice way, whilst trying to tell its own story. And the fact is, I think the film is beautiful. Avatar is beautiful. Obviously, the visual style is so beautifully designed. It's arguably got the best world building in a film. Pandora, there is nothing else like it. I've yet to see a world that is this detailed in film. I mean, wow. Every time I watch this film, even on a smaller screen, the detail is incredible, but the fact I got to go back and see it in 3D is amazing. Avatar is hands down the best 3D film of all time. The way that the 3D is so intricately designed for this movie, it makes you feel like you're there on Pandora, and that only furthers, for me, a stronger emotional connection to Jake and the characters who we follow in this film. If there are any criticisms of the film, I would probably say the villains aren't the best. They're not hugely developed. I realise that we are getting 4 Avatar sequels, so we will probably see them again. Well, we're definitely going to see Quaritch again and Parker, but in terms of to what extent, I don't know. So hopefully they'll get some more development. Like Parker Selfridge, played by Giovanni Ribisi, very generic, corporate businessman, asshole. Doesn't get a huge amount of screen time in the film. Could have had a bit more time to develop, but they were obviously more focused on, the Na'vi and Jake and his story. And also the Colonel, Quaritch. You kind of get a little inkling into his hatred towards the Na'vi and the planet. The fact that he was attacked by a creature and he was given scars, but he doesn't get that much to do, and I don't think the conflict between him and Jake is as powerful as it could be. It does lack a bit of a punch towards the end. You do feel like, okay, he's just fighting this guy because he's evil and he wants the unobtainium. You kind of think, okay, you need a little bit more impact than that. But as I said, Quaritch is returning for the sequels, despite what happens at the end of this film. So I think the character is due for more development. But like I said, the look of this film, wow. It is breathtaking. It takes your breath away. It's spectacular to look at. There is no frame that hasn't been thought about. They knew they wanted to do something that was cutting edge, and they wanted to, suck you into this world. And that's the thing. Film, people say, oh, well, the visuals are great, but nothing else is great. Well, isn't film a visual medium? That's what I always thought. Visuals are sometimes what you need to tell a story. And even though this story, the narrative is simplistic, the visuals are what tell the story. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, personally. We've got a great cast in this film. Sam Worthington, who plays Jake Sully, the Marine. And Jake is a very interesting character. I like the fact that he's disabled. He was a Marine and he's been through this massive accident where he's lost his legs and he's also lost his brother. In the extended cut of this film, we actually see an alternate opening where he's on Earth living his life and he's basically depressed and the Earth is kind of dying. So when Jake, meets Neytiri and he falls in love with the world, he really is sucked into this world in the best way possible, and his life really turns around, and he realizes he has a chance to start again, to have a new life and have a clean slate, if you will. And I think the love story in Avatar is beautiful when he falls for Neytiri, who's the Na'vi princess, essentially. But Jake is cool. He's a little bit of a show-off. He's a little bit cocky, but that's through some of Cameron's writing. There's a couple of lines where he's a bit of a show-off, where he's like squaring up to the creatures, and he's like, yeah, come on. That's what I'm talking about, bitch. I think maybe some of that could have been cut, as a little bit corny, but, Cameron's always been known for some corny dialogue. And I think Zoe Saldana is great as Neytiri. I think she's an incredibly strong character. That scene where she meets Jake in the forest and he says thanks to her for killing the animals, the viper wolves, and then she smacks him and she's like, no, you don't thank me for this. They didn't need to die. And that's kind of the whole heart of this film is the message of that, we don't need to kill nature, we don't need to deforest anything, and that's why I like Avatar so much, because it's very impactful. It has a strong message about taking care of our planet. I mean, the fact is humanity screwed itself over because the Earth is dying, and the fact that they want to colonize on Pandora and take the unobtainium, it just kind of shows how reckless and how selfish they are, and the humans were not willing to coexist, so it's their own fault. And it's just really interesting to see the culture of the Na'vi and how when Jake has to learn their ways to gain their trust, you know, when he's like riding the horses, you know, learning to fly his ikran, hunting. It's brilliant. I love all those scenes where he's learning and then he's falling in love with the world, and we are too. Also, the music for Avatar, wow. James Horner's score is absolutely brilliant. It's incredibly powerful, and especially in scenes like when the home tree is destroyed. That is incredibly emotional as well. And by that point, you are so invested in all of this that, wow, you really do. Well, there is no choice by that point. You really do side with the Na'vi, and you don't blame them for standing up to face the humans. And I love that scene where they go and recruit all the clans. Again, powerful music. Jake really kind of steps up and becomes a leader, and he really does earn his place among the Na'vi, especially when he has to redeem himself, and he rides the Taruk Maktal Banshee. Well, I wouldn't have thought of that. The film is long, there's no question about it, and there are like 3 or 4 different versions now. In the remastered version, there's a scene at the end where Parker Selfridge squares up to Jake, and he says, "This isn't over," and Neytiri pulls a knife. You didn't necessarily need that, but it was kind of a nice addition. The film also there's the theatrical version, the special edition, and the collector's extended edition, so there's so many different versions of Avatar that you can watch. But no matter which version you watch, it's just gorgeous to look at. It sounds brilliant, and the emotion is there. There is so much heart and soul that's been put into it. No matter what you think of the story, the heart and soul is incredible. And you know, I felt every emotional beat, and again, the details are real, and the way they have captured the emotions in the mocap is incredibly impressive, and it still holds up today. And I have to admit, the 4K remaster is nice. I mean, it's obviously not a huge leap because the film already looked impressive, but the colours are a bit brighter, and the 3D, that's just so cool. And the war scenes are very epic. Towards the end, there's a massive battle scene in which the humans and the Na'vi square off, and I think that's also very impressive. Other people like Norm, played by Joel David Moore, he's great. He's a bit of a nerd, but he's kind of cool. Trudy, played by Michelle Rodriguez, awesome character, really awesome character. Sigourney Weaver as Grace, you know, one of the best characters, and I like her maternal instincts towards Jake and how she slowly begins to warm to him. The Na'vi characters like Sute, Atu Khan, Moat. I mean, Sute particularly, he has a bit of a conflict with Jake, but then it all kind of they become friends and they trust each other in the end. And in the extended cut, they actually have a proper death scene for him, which is really quite sad. So if you haven't seen the extended cut, I would recommend it. The film is long, no matter which cut you watch, but I think it's good that it's long because, again, you spend so much time getting involved in the world, and there isn't any way to kind of cut corners around that. You're either going to be immersed or you're not. And I think this film does an exceptional job at being authentic, and all the creatures and the design, everything is beautiful. And I also love that moment towards the end where, you know, Awa has heard you, that part where all the creatures come and help them fight. And that's another thing about Avatar. It's incredibly spiritual. You know, it has this kind of this kind of religious undertone. The fact that, you know, if you believe in God or faith, you know, they will provide. So I like the fact that there's so much faith established in this culture of the Na'vi, and on Pandora, like Awa, their deity, does help them in a lot of ways. Like I said, the only criticisms I would have with this film are the fact that the little rock is called Unobtainium. I think that's a bit of a stupid name. They could have changed that and made that slightly less predictable. And also the villains definitely needed some more development. They are the weakest characters, but the characters we do get to know are very good. And also Sigourney Weaver's Grace, her death is incredibly sad. There's a lot of death and intense battle in this film. So, you know, the more that you invest in the characters, I think the greater the impact you'll have. The film definitely has a strong emotional core to it. And I think the ending is also very beautiful when Jake, when Neytiri sees Jake in his human form for the first time, and then Jake becomes permanently a Na'vi. So, Avatar. I think this is a wonderful film, and this is going to shock some people, but I am going to rate Avatar an easy 10 out of 10. I can't help it. I love it. I think it's a great film, supremely underrated. So before I go, the only thing I would like to say is that the sequel's coming soon, and I will review it. And in the mid credits, they teased the second film. There was a clip in The Way of Water that surrounded Jake and Neytiri's kids, which I will go into at some point later, because I'm going to see Avatar again with Harry Thomas. So myself and Harry will do a collaborative vlog on the clip from The Way of Water. So on Thursday I'm going back to see the movie again, and with Harry this time, so we can both give our detailed thoughts there. But for the purpose of not making this review too much longer, I am going to just say that the clip was awesome. It was really good, and the visuals, wow. I mean, there is nothing else like it, guys. I think we're in for a treat with The Way of Water. We really are. Anyway, that's my review of Avatar. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment down below, let me know what you think. And stay tuned in December when I review Avatar: The Way of Water, the very long-awaited sequel to this movie. But if you haven't seen this movie, I would definitely encourage you to go and watch it in the remastered form, especially if you weren't old enough to see it when it first came out. I did see it when it first came out, and then I saw the special edition re-release, but I'm so glad I got to see this again, and I'm looking forward to seeing it one more time. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button for more content, and stay tuned for more reviews in the future. So until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya.